Hey guys, this is Jamie. So today I'm doing a video which I wish I didn't have to do, but anyway. So there had been talks about a certain retrogression when it comes to trans rights in Portugal, and unfortunately, a law proposed by the alt-right party kind of got picked up by the majority party, which is the center right, and right now that is going into it got approved, and it will now be going to the motions of for the ethics committee and then going for the president. And I even considered if I was like should do this video in Portuguese, but then I understood that I do all my videos in English and sort of for a more international audience. So I'll continue doing this in English. And this is pretty much to raise awareness on the horrors of the situation and what is really happening. So I guess let's start with the fact that the law is to forbid sort of certain things that don't exist, which is, for instance, that um, SRS surgeries, sex change surgeries, should not be done on minors, which makes no sense because they're not being done on minors in Portugal. Other things go like the fact that you need medical records, medical notes for you to be able to change your name. And that is where it gets tricky because a lot of people, due to the shortages of doctors, don't have a doctor, a family doctor, doctor de familia. And because of that, they can have difficulty in getting referred to a specialist. And if we are gonna really retrogress this goes into the fact that maybe you'll need to have many psychologists' opinions in order to be allowed to change your name. And meaning we are throwing down a law that passed in 2018, which was about the fact that every person has their own rights to change their name and their gender. And that is the problem because there's a shortage of doctors in the country. There's a shortage of medical staff, and people know sort of who they are at the end of the day. And like when it comes to medical things, it really takes years for people to get that. And for instance, like I have been transitioning for more than 7 years now, and I don't have my papers changed because Portugal cannot overrule like my Lithuanian passport, which says that that this is my dead name and I can't change that. And this goes into certain things, like for instance, when I go to the emergency, people will start sort of saying my actual name, but then when it gets to like the sixth doctor who's calling out to like find out what's going on with me, I just get tired of explaining like what my name is. And then the doctors get confused because if they see sort of someone like with a female name and they call out and I'm the only one in the corridor, they're not going to pay attention that it's me. And obviously, I feel weird because some doctors get notified that, I'm Jamie, this is my name, and I'm a dude, or, like I'm a trans dude. And as much as everyone's trying to be helpful and sort of put it in the system as much as they can, there's certain sort of things that because there is no law, there is no returning, there is no legal name changed into it, I can't really override that. So that becomes an issue. And a lot of people, for instance, and this also goes into with people who are under the age of 18 who will not be able to change their name. And a lot of people, and specifically the fact that teachers don't have to use the social name, the actual chosen name of the person, and they have to use their dead name in schools. And obviously, a lot of teachers have been speaking out and saying, like, hey, I will call my trans students by their actual names. I will not dead name them. And that is great. And in general, like the order of psychologists, the order of doctors have been very vocal and have requested to speak up in parliament when there's going to be another hearing about this law, because this is all against human rights. This is all against medical, medical, medical staff and medical world organizations, and this means that Portugal will be falling in human rights as well. And this is all because they're saying like, oh, we're against like some gender ideology, we're protecting the children. But the thing is, children in Portugal which are trans already have it difficult because you still have you still have transphobia in schools because it's still difficult to change names, and it's hard to find a doctor who or a psychiatrist who will give you sort of the time of the day as well. Like, I'm not trying to say that we have like a terrible sort of or transphobic system in the National Health Service, but it is really good. But because there's like three main ones in the whole country, which is Coimbra, Lisbon, and Porto, people outside of these free cities have to be referred to the other cities. They have to travel, they have to wait in queue, and they have to be referred, and they have to wait for years. So this is just putting everyone in more danger and in more danger of waiting for it. Also, the fact that trans youth cannot access now hormone blockers is absolutely insane because kids who have puberty, which starts earlier, can access them, and they do access them, and that is all fine. But if you're a trans kid, you can't do that, which makes no sense. And puberty blockers was something that I personally feel very particular about because I really wish I had that opportunity because puberty was very difficult for me when I was growing up. And I only started HRT when I was in my 20s, like around a bit more than 7 years ago, nearly eight. And it was very difficult for me because I had all these changes. And yes, I got lucky that, I transitioned and I got all the changes I wanted. I pass. I feel comfortable in my skin. I'm happy. But I didn't have to go through a puberty that I didn't want and didn't need because I am trans medically as well. Like, if you want to go into sort of like insane medical stuff, like I've gone through all the processes when I started transitioning. So I have the papers which say that, I legally have the right to change my name. I am legally trans. I am legally allowed to do the operations. So I've gone through all those things. And I know how hard it is to do those things. It's not very pleasant, but obviously, like when I was going through them, I was desperate and I was just happy that, this is happening. I am getting acknowledged. Like, my dysphoria is not like some bullshit. This is this is real. Like everything that, I fought against with my family or like my mom specifically, like she's full of shit. I am trans and this is my reality. And just because I get to speak about this when I'm like 31 doesn't mean that people need to be waiting until they're like way older to do this. People shouldn't have to put their life on some hold just because someone thinks that, what if they'll regret it? And in my opinion, this is only up to doctors to decide. And if the doctors are saying this law is bullshit, this self determination and the fact that people can access to change their name and then transition, or vice versa, is done by a doctor and is monitored, and this law is very heavily judged by psychologists and medical professionals. This is what we need to be listening to. We shouldn't be listening to some fucking populist asshole. And to be honest, I am very pissed off at the current government, specifically PSD, and I feel like this is a coward's move. They're literally taking a page out of Keir Starmer's book. I absolutely see that Montenegro is feeling like, oh, let's look at what the UK is doing because Portugal has a sort of thing of like looking at what the UK is doing due to historical reasons. But Keir Starmer is not popular. Keir Starmer is very unpopular. So I do not understand even Montenegro's drive to sort of try to be Keir Starmer when he's not popular. He's not popular for his decisions. He's not doing right decisions. So obviously, and this makes it even more disgusting with the previous presidential elections that just happened, and Montenegro's silence, where he did not voice his support for Seguro and did not voice, thankfully at least, his support for Ventura, who is the alt-right candidate, just speaks volumes. The fact that Shega and PSD are in this together just speaks volumes that we are going for this insane alt-right majority, which shouldn't even be the case. And there is a lot of disagreements within the PSD party, but they're just pushing through this bullshit because, again, like, Montenegro thinks he's like Keir Starmer, and somehow that's gonna work for him when Keir Starmer just, like, birds himself with all his stupid ideas. So yeah. So that was pretty much what I wanted to say. I want to speak a bit more candidly. I speak usually to a more international audience. So I needed to cover this. I needed to speak about this. I needed to be pissed off about this. I also went to a manifestation, a protest a few days back, and I will continue doing that. I will continue fighting for our rights because Portugal is a free country. Portugal has great trans rights, and it should continue having normal trans rights as it did sort of like historically after like after 25th April and the presidential elections. The fact that Seguro won is a great thing, and we need to keep that up. And I really hope that the law will be struck down, whether it is by the ethics committee or by the president or by the second vote. And everyone who's watching this who is Portuguese or who lives in this country is watching this. I really hope things get better, and we will not give up without a fight. And if anything, feel free to reach out to me, and don't forget to sign the petition and reach out to your local LGBT people and take care of yourself, take care of the trans people around you, and we can get through this. Thank you very much.